was, Granddad. If it sound gay, it's gay. And you gotta say no homo. How I know you're not a homo, Granddad, if you don't say no homo?
I just finished reading part 7 of JoJo. Part 7 of JoJo is my hands down favorite part of JoJo. There's no comparison. I mean, I did love part 4. It was my favorite part up to then. Joseph is still my favorite JoJo. But part 7 was damn amazing. I don't know what more I could ask for when it came to that. Every single interaction when it came to the stand battles. One problem that I had with some of the previous parts was that the stand villains it was very episodic. The different antagonists, they didn't stick with me. I don't remember them like that. It's hard for me to remember the difference between the orangutan stand from part 3 and the boat stand from part 3. I don't like part 5 did a good job of making me remember the enemy stand users, and then part 4, of course, most people remain characters except for the last bunch of characters that Kira's dad appointed to take out to try and take out the team. But like each character in part 7, each stand user was fleshed out. They weren't one and done. They had relevance later on. They, like, when it came to the guy who stand where when he sat still, he was like he was untouchable, he was invulnerable. Like, I thought that was it, he was done, but he stuck around. Like, he was a problem afterwards too, and they had to deal with him after. Weka people, he wasn't one and done. He got his full backstory, and he ended up becoming an ally. Usually that does happen in JoJo, but it usually happens at the beginning, never towards the middle or the end. Then you have people who fought without stands. Like, it took forever for stands to be properly introduced into the story, and there were already situations happening. And then throughout the whole story, like, Gyro didn't have a stand. He just fought with the spin, which in my eyes was like the reintroduction of Hamon, or the Ripple. And it was amazing in every way. Like, I don't even know what to touch on. This is just a raw video. I haven't scripted this out or anything. I just wanted to say how much I love this. And then just the different callbacks, Lucy Steele being a Pendleton, which is a shout out to Arena. And then Johnny Joestar and George Joestar and Danny and all that good stuff. And then the reveal towards the end that Gyro Sapelli was Caesar. That was another callback. Like, this was great. Like, man, oh man. And I can't say enough about Gyro. Gyro was my favorite character. He had a humor, he had a seriousness. He was like a mentor to Johnny, but at the same time, he had his humbling moments where Johnny was teaching him a lesson. And I think he basically was the main character of this part, not Johnny. But eventually the focus kind of switched to Johnny. Now, the only thing is, when I was reading it, Gyro's death was spoiled for me. I already knew that Gyro was going to die. But even then, when it actually did happen, it hurt. I was just like, man. Like, I really didn't want him to go. I really wanted that to be alive, that he was going to live to the end. But that's not what happened. He actually met his end. But and then Dio. Like, there was parts during part 7 where I was rooting for Dio. Where before, I would never do that. I would never think that Dio was going to be somebody that's going to be of help to us. Because at first he was a villain. You got his backstory, which was a much better backstory than the original Dio. Like, his backstory was great. But then, so you get Dio, and you're like, well, is he gonna be a bad guy like that? Because you first see him when he first is really being introduced to the main characters. You see that he's that he's kind of a victim of a stand. The scary monsters, but he adapt stand. I don't really know how that happens, how he just gets the person's stand, but whatever. I don't care. It's fine. And I'm sure there's explanation. But yeah, but then he then becomes antagonistic because of how his how he is as a person. But like he's more reasonable in how he goes about things, to the point where when the president, who's a whole nother thing, dirty deeds done dirt cheap, when the president is becoming problematic, Dio has no choice but to kind of team up with the good guys and kind of be of help. And then just seeing a situation where Dio is helping us. Come on. It's like, it was a great story on its own, but the fact that it was connected to the past parts, like the past parts exist and the things that we already knew, it just added to the whole experience, and I loved it. It made everything great. Like man. And then towards the end, when after dealing with the president and dealing with his crazy stand power and finally defeating him, and you're thinking, all right, that was the final battle, everything's over. But then all of a sudden we get the alternative Dio, and guess what his stand is? The world. What? Oh man. That was like a love letter. That was like a love letter to me right there, saying, hey, Trevor, you ever sit there and wonder, I wonder how Dio would do against this person. I wonder how Dio would do against this person with the world. Rocky's like, you know what? I'm going to tell you right here. This is it. Here's how Dio would do against this person. Here's how Dio would do against Johnny. And man, that was great. That was great. But then we gotta talk about Funny Valentine, D4C. Now, he was a great villain. I mean, my favorite villain in JoJo was Kiro Yoshikage. But Funny Valentine, is he number 2? Maybe. I don't know. I think it's still Dio's number 2. Funny Valentine's number 3. All right, Funny Valentine is number 3. He's above Pucci. He's above Cars. He's above the others. And Funny Valentine, where he's the president of the United States, number 1. So right off the bat, he's a huge threat because he's the president of the country. He's the president of the country. So right off the bat, he's a huge threat. Then on top of that, his stand is an absolute just powerhouse. And it was done. At first, it took me a long time to understand, like, what's going on. The introduction of his power was great, where Johnny gets shot, and you're like, who shot him? People saying Dio shot him. People are saying Weko people shot him. And people are saying the president shot him. We don't know what happened. And then finding out what he was doing and how he was fooling different people and how he's making them see different things, and how his whole power worked with how he merged dimensions and how he could pass through dimensions, and just the requirements for it. It was great. Like, I mean, it seemed random, but it just like how they worked with it and how it became the battle and how he was basically invulnerable if he had anything that he could sandwich himself in between. And it just made the fight so interesting. Like, they just couldn't, like, the only way to defeat him is to kill him instantly, but he had so much objects around him to help him. And it was just great. And then when the corpse came into play, like they had the corpse of Jesus in there, and just, man, there's so many things to touch on. I could make videos about like so many individual things. I could make videos on Jesus's role in the story, and how Jonathan at the end Johnny was at the end was talking about how prayer was helping him, and you saw in different parts where Jesus was helping him. Or I can go on about how Gyro was one of the greatest characters. I could talk about Funny Valentine and how his backstory and his goal was great, and Dio and his role, and how this new version of Dio that we saw. I can go on and on and on and on and on about the different things that I saw. But just to do my favorite thing, I'll just say my favorite thing about this part was the fact that we got in-depth analysis, in-depth backstories for all these characters. So many characters had these in-depth these in-depth views, to where like each character wasn't just a person attached to us, just a person that was attached to a stand, where the stand was the real star. No, it was the person. The person was the star, and the stand was his ability, and it was great. Like those backstories were my favorite part of Steel Ball Run, and I just want more. I mean, I got part 8 left. I still got to start part 8, but I just want to come and just give my real raw first reaction to it, because I just finished it. I just finished reading it. And so I'm wearing my robe and all that stuff and whatever. So I'm all comfortable. I didn't even get changed for it. I didn't even do much setup and everything. But that was I just want to give my real first raw reaction to watching or reading part 7. But I'm going to end that here. I don't want to ramble on too much, because I don't have any type of planned script for this or anything. I just want to give my real first thoughts. So that's it. I'm going to end it here. If you like my content, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Also check out my other videos here. You can check out my Final Fantasy Remake video, or you can check out my Madoka Magica video. And also subscribe. I'll see you guys later.